For further analysis on the escalating offensive on Lebanon, we're joined by UNICEF spokesperson Tess Ingram. Welcome, Ms. Ingram. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
What are UNICEF's estimates regarding the number of casualties in Lebanon among children, and what are the conditions of the displaced people in the country's shelters?
In the last couple of weeks, the number of children killed and injured has happened at a rapid pace. We estimate that over 100 children have been killed in that time frame, and almost 700 injured, which is a shocking escalation from the number of children that were killed and injured in the months leading into the last fortnight. So this really is increasing rapidly. And for those children who have managed to flee without harm, the conditions for the displaced are really dire. I've spent this week some time in some of the shelters where people are living, and I spoke to families who told me that they left with almost nothing, families that only have the clothes that they're wearing. One mother told me that the lucky families are the ones that have a change of clothes. And so UNICEF is bringing what we can to these shelters to try and support families get through this immediate period of crisis.
So do you think that we could possibly see the same thing happening in Lebanon as we've seen in Gaza, where, UN facilities had been bombed, that sheltered children, in addition to obviously these children not being able to access education for a whole year, and also, the difficult sanitation situations that they're in, leading to many skin diseases and diseases in general?
Well, look, obviously I can't predict what's going to happen in terms of this conflict, but that would be a catastrophe for the children of Lebanon, and UNICEF is urging all parties to the conflict to agree to a ceasefire immediately, and the international community to put pressure on that circumstance to ensure that we don't see that sort of situation here in Lebanon. We can't afford to see it. This is a very vulnerable population that has already been through so much in the last 5 years, including an economic crisis that sent poverty rates soaring, and as well, of course, the Port of Beirut explosion. So families were already having a difficult time before this conflict, and this is really just compounding the situation in a really serious way.
So what is the situation of the children in Lebanon in general right now in light of the ongoing Israeli bombardment? How is UNICEF dealing with them? I'm sure the psychological effect is quite dire.
Yeah, I think the psychological effect is of great concern. Like I said, I've been at shelters talking to children, and on the surface they seem okay, and then the more you speak to them, the more you realize that they're putting on a bit of a brave face, and there's a lot of fear and anxiety and trauma underneath that. Children crying or getting choked up when they try and talk about what has happened to them over the last couple of weeks. I heard harrowing stories of children making journeys from the south to Beirut, seeing explosions along the way. One little girl told me that a car next to them on the highway was hit by an airstrike, and the impact of that blast damaged their car and glass went flying everywhere. So this is just one example of the many different things that children have experienced, and this sort of compound trauma will, of course, have a long-term impact on children's mental health here in Lebanon. So UNICEF is on the ground. We've been in Lebanon mental health and psychosocial services. We're also setting up mobile health clinics. And of course, we're delivering supplies. We've delivered a lot of medical supplies, over 100 tons, with more arriving this weekend. And we're bringing those essentials to shelters like water, medicines, blankets, mattresses, things that people need right away.